Crank up the volume and get ready for real-world bird hunting by listening to the Wingmen podcast by Eastman's. Now your host, Todd Helms.
Hey Wingmen fans, this episode is brought to you by, hey guys, waders. Waders are a key component to waterfowl hunting. The Sitka Delta Zip wader, in my mind, was a revolutionary piece of equipment. I've been a fly fishing guide for, over a decade, as well as a big game hunter and, of course, a bird hunter, waterfowl especially. And I've worn every wader practically known to man, from neoprene and the old school canvas with polyurethane to the first zippered waders, right down to stocking foots, boot foots, you name it, I've worn it. Sitka hit the nail on the head with this Delta Zip wader. I've got a quick story to tell you because I could run down through all the features on these waders and talk all about those, but I'd rather tell you a story when those waders not just kept me in the field, but probably saved my life, to be honest. It was on a late season goose hunt on the river, one of the rivers that we hunt here a lot in Wyoming. And we'd knocked down a big volley of geese, and we had two dogs. Dogs were doing lots of work. Guys are out in the current doing work, and we had a couple geese get downstream of us. Normally, these birds would be gone, but we were able to run down the bank. I was able to run down the bank with my lab Mackinac, and I sent him on a bird, and I thought, I can get this other one. I didn't know that the main river channel cut close to the bank. The water was murky. I took about 3 steps, and as I take the 4th, and I'm reaching almost with bird in hand, I go in the drink. And I'm not talking like I fall in. I'm over my head swimming in February in a icy, slushy western river. I got a hold of the bird. I turn and I start side stroking back to the bank. I'm in water. I'm not sure how deep it was, but it was over my head. I couldn't touch. The belt on the Sitka waders kept as much water as possible out from those waders. They didn't fill up. It's kind of a wives' tale that your waders will fill up if they're belted and worn correctly. The waders' design kept the water from filling up and taking me down. I was able to get back to the bank, scramble out. It's cold. We're looking at single digits. And I went back to the blind. Again, I've had the right layers on that I've talked about previously. You guys have heard me talk about layering with the Sitka system. But inside those waders, what started happening was the walk back to the blind got my heart rate up, and got my body heat, my body core temperature elevated a little bit as well. And I was actually able to start this cooking process where I got the inside layers warm and they started to dry through that thermogenesis, for lack of a better term. Those waders, I started to dry from the inside out. And because the Sitka Delta Zipper waders breathe so well, that perspiration and that water on the inside was literally cooking its way and breathing its way out of the wader. I went back, standing temperature that day without wind was like 5 degrees, 6 degrees. And I thought, man, I might be done for the day. I got back to the blind. I thought, we'll see. Birds are flying real good. I can always walk out of here. I got back to the blind. I put another layer on the outside to help trap some heat. I think it was a Dakota hoodie, actually. And I stayed for another 3 hours. By the time I got home, not only was I warm, but the layers, my base layers against my skin were pretty much dry. And the outside of those waders was breathing and transferring so much moisture that it was freezing on the outside of the waders, and I was scraping it off with my fingers like frost on a windshield. I felt like that was the biggest testament to the technology and the purpose-driven design that Sitka puts into not just their Delta Zipper waders, but every piece of equipment that they make. That's my life or death story with Sitka waders. Yeah, they very well may have saved my life. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Wingmen podcast. In the same place with, this time, the owners of this shindig up here. I've got Kyler Knelsen and Norman Peters. And you guys run this show, and you pawn it off, all the hard work off on those two clowns.
We sure do.
Sitting over there. Oh, we got out and had a good hunt this morning with you guys. You guys joined us for the first time this week. But we've been chasing bears with Norm all week long.
Yep.
And first of all, thank you for having us, and thank you for coming on the podcast.
Thanks for coming up. It's been a hoot. It's been the best week so far this season.
This has been the best hunt. Probably the most memorable hunt that I've ever done. You know, from ridiculous goose hunting to the bear hunting is out of this world. And to Brandon's rodeo that we had with his bear. We had to leave it overnight.
Yeah.
And we'll get into that in a minute. But Kyler, tell us about Wingmaster Outfitting and the other side of your company as well, because you're a man of many colors. We'll put it that way. You do a lot of stuff, man.
I do. I got a few irons in the fire for sure. Well, Wingmaster started in 2008, I do believe. When I started guiding right out of high school, I was 18, and actually before I turned 18, I wanted to get in the industry. I told my dad I'm going to be a hunting outfitter, a hunting guide, or something. I don't care what I do, but I'm going to be in the outfitting industry or the outdoor industry, and I'm going to make a living at it. And nobody in our family hunted. My grandpa hunted a little bit. My dad shot birds. So I guess we grew up shooting birds. But he said, well, go for it. If you want to do it, then go do something. So I started guiding when I was 18, and then realized, dude, this is pretty cool. So I ended up getting my outfitting license later on that year, and just a full-on rookie. Didn't know what I was doing. Just jumped in with both feet with no exit plan or no idea what to do next.
It was make it or break it.
Make it or break it. You figure it out on the run. And it's been almost 14 years now.
Wow.
And started here in Alberta with black bears and waterfowl. That's how we started.
Started off with this.
Started off with exactly this, and
Dude.
now, and then it just kept going and morphed, and there was more opportunities that came available, and then it turned into caribou in the Arctic and muskox and grizzly bear and the odd polar bear and a bunch of other stuff. So
when we got here, you met us out at the road. You just flown in.
Yeah,
you have a plane.
Yeah,
That's a big deal.
I was
for
home for about
folks in the
25
US.
minutes when you guys showed up.
Jeez, oh Pete. And just so that's even more impressive to me, because we get here, we're on the phone with Kyler. You were super responsive the whole time setting up this hunt, like instant communication, and you're in the bush hunting muskox.
Yeah, we were hunting muskox, and it was going a little bit longer than we had anticipated. We hit like 4 days of bad weather, and we couldn't get out. And I'm like, oh, well, we got these bear hunters coming in, and I don't know if this is going to work out, but we ended up tagging out on some great bulls and got home just in time, so it all worked out.
Well, it was incredible, because so many times with outfitters, you'll hear from them when you set up the hunt. You might check in once, and then you don't talk to them again until you get there. And that was not the case. Brandon was in constant communication with you, and just like you'd come back in, and all of a sudden I get an email back checking in. Hey guys, just checking in. I'm like, I thought this guy was hunting muskox, setting up moose camps, and you're constantly. That was super impressive. And then the way you welcomed us in here, we met you out at the end of the drive, you came in here and showed us around, and then, hey guys, when you're ready, supper will be ready for you. Come on up to the house, and just walked into your beautiful home and met your awesome family. And your wife as well has cooked for us all week long. Make sure that we're definitely not losing any weight on this hunt.
No, that'd be bad. Well, why would the guy do it any other way, right? If you're going to do something, like Norman's dad always used to say, if you're going to do something, you might as well do it well. So
You're doing it very, very well.
give her a whirl.
Very, very well. Norman, how did you get into this, man?
Oh, man.
It's kind of cool. Actually.
It is kind of cool. So it's 2017, and Kyler was out setting wolf baits in November, and I was just in between jobs. I was working in the logging industry. And so November was a slow month, and I was sitting at home not doing anything. So I sent him an Instagram message asking if he needed help putting out wolf baits. And sure enough, he needed a guy, so we went out the next 3 days and baited wolves and set new baits, and asked him if he needed a spring bear guide for the next or upcoming spring. And he said, well, the list is long, but give me a call in spring. So spring rolled around, and I gave him a call. He said, I've got a deal. You can bait bears for 2 weeks, but it's not going to be guiding. So started baiting bears, and 2 weeks turned into, 6 years now.
I was like,
Wow.
dude, this guy can work. I'm going to keep this guy around for a while. I'm like, man, what else can this guy do? I'm like, yeah, I'm going to keep him busy, and it's been,
Yeah.
it's
Well,
been
he's
an awesome
you're
relationship.
tireless.
Yeah.
I was giving you grief earlier in the day. I'm like, yeah, I can't keep up with you. We're out bear hunting in the evenings. Okay, this is the plan. We're gonna go over here. We're gonna poke through this window, and we're gonna check that next field. Turn, and he's gone. And I'm like, wait up, Norm. You know, you are wired hot, dude. And,
Well, I've been out on the Arctic for a month, so this is pretty easy walking.
Yeah, so we get here. Yeah, the Arctic thing. We get here, and we have supper. We have a nice campfire. We shoot our bows a little bit, and go out and get in and jump in a field and just slay the geese the first morning. I mean, we were done by 7:30. Literally, it was like, okay, well, now what? You know, we want to sit around and wait for time, but that evening, we came back from the bear hunt, and you're like, hey, Kyler's like, hey, I'm up at the house. I'm just going to be fleshing muskox hides. And I'm thinking, well, don't threaten me with a good time. And we went up there because I've never seen a muskox, let alone a muskox hide.
Yeah.
It's not like they're roaming around in Wyoming. And we just sat there, and we filmed some of it, and we just sat there and BS'd while watching you flesh a hide. Getting a glimpse into your lives, what you do on a daily basis, has been eye-opening. What is a day in the life of, I don't care if it's a waterfowl guide or what is it, a big game guide, what does it look like?
Well, it looks like a guy sitting on the couch on the phone the whole time for me in the last week. Man. No, it's a combination of a whole bunch of things. You're part taxi driver, you're part, I don't know, booking consultant and travel agent, and part taxidermist, and whatever needs to be done. It just varies from day to day.
There's nobody that's going to do it for you.
No.
Yeah, you got to do it yourself if you want it done. Anything that surprised you along the way? Because 6 years, if you come into it and you're kind of like, oh, I expected this to be kind of like this.
Not really. It's
Really?
actually exactly what I expected it to be. It's just fell in love with it right away and didn't want to do anything else. I knew right away I wanted this job to be my lifestyle, and it's been that ever since.
That's so cool.
It's a lot of fun.
It takes a little bit of a different mindset for me. I mean, even growing up before I was an outfitter or guide, it was just I loved seeing the joy in somebody else when they harvest an animal, and to me, I get just as big of a thrill or more out of watching somebody else have some great success than doing it myself. And at the end of the day, not everybody wants to do that. I know some guys, but Norman and I have got some friends that they'd much rather shoot stuff themselves.
Yeah.
Which is fine. But they're just not going to be a guide.
Yeah. And I'm the same way. Like, I see just as much joy seeing a client kill a bucket list animal than if I was pulling the trigger. It's just,
Yeah.
it takes a special breed of hunters. It's,
Right. I'm not there. I'm a trigger puller. No doubt. I get this savage renegade eating, and it's like, it doesn't stop. You just keep rolling. Kurt, give me some more shells. Oh. But the other night, so we're up here, and we're hunting with Kurt and Rod in the mornings, going out, hunting geese, having a ball, and then we're out with you and Bob in the evenings, chasing bears. How does that combo even come about?
It's a
Because
weird combo,
everybody that I tell about it is like, dude, That sounds like it's awesome.
It started years ago. So that in 2009 was the first year I really booked clients, and I didn't have any bear hunters at all. And I was there was another waterfowl hunting operation in town.
Okay.
And they had a group of guys in there, and a couple of them wanted to shoot some bears. And so I got a phone call saying, "Hey, can you take such and such out and shoot some bears? Because we know you got bear tags." And I said, "You know what? Sure. I got bear baits going on, and we got oat fields we can hunt in." And so we went out and shot bears. And the next day they went back with those guys and shot a bunch more birds. I'm thinking, that is a pretty cool gig. It's a full week.
Oh,
you get up early, you're
busy.
shooting birds, have a big breakfast, have a nap, have a long nap.
Yeah, a long
maybe a
nap.
really
Sleep
long nap.
all afternoon.
And then go shoot bears in the evenings. I mean, it's a full week. Those naps during the day are fantastic.
They are key.
Yeah.
I haven't slept better, I don't think, ever in my life. I open that slider window in there above that bed, and that cool breeze is coming through the trees. I'm out, and it's in seconds. Brandon giving me grief the day he woke me up. It's time to go bear hunting. Norm's almost here. You got to get up. I was so deep in a dream. I was out of it for the whole, I don't know, pretty much half the bear hunt. Like the four-wheeler ride in was like,
It's still half asleep.
he woke me up, and I think he whispered my name a couple of times, and I finally broke from my reverie, and I was out, man. But you're right, those afternoon naps are key. So what was people's first reactions to it?
They loved it. Everybody loved it. They're like, "You do what in the afternoons?" "Oh, so we shoot bears." "Like bears as in singular or plural?" I said, "Well, you get 2 tags, definitely plural." And everybody that does it's like, "Man, I got to do this again."
Yeah.
And it's just a relaxed combo, and it's something different. Everybody that comes loves it.
It's a pretty low key hunt. Like there's no pressure.
There's very few
Really.
people that do it and that don't want to do it again.
Yeah,
Or
it's a hunt you could do every year, like you said. It's most of the guys that come up and do it. It's we got to do this every year.
Oh yeah, I could totally see that. It's like, it never crossed my mind ever to do that. I would do like what Kurt and Rod said. We shoot geese in the morning. Let's go shoot ducks in the afternoon. That makes sense. But the bears, and it's like, ducks and geese, that's like peanut butter and jelly. This is like chili and a cinnamon roll.
I like
You
that.
don't think they're going to go together, but they are so good together that once you do it, you can't not do it again. It's like, yeah, and then you have one. I'm gonna go home and go goose hunting and go, I wish I could go hunt bears this afternoon. But it's December and they're all sleeping.
Yeah.
And it's a neat way to hunt bears too. Like you're not sitting over a bait pile and bear shopping, which is cool if you haven't sat over a bait before.
Right.
It's awesome. But if you're walking around, you're getting some exercise, walking these field edges, and you're getting multiple stalks a day, and it's like, oh yeah, how big is that bear? And he stands up in front of you. Ooh, he's not that big. You go on to the next one.
Right.
Or if one wins you, off he goes. Well, there's going to be another one around the next corner.
We stalked 3 bears the first night. We saw,
Yep.
I think, 6 or 7.
6 or 7.
The second night, that was Brandon's turn. Second night, I was up to bat. I stalked in the first hour and a half we were out there, or 2. I think I stalked 4 different bears. And the one it was a play stalk. We literally just got out of the truck, and there's this little bear comes strolling out of the woods. We're like, oh, bear. And I walked over and saw to see how close I could get, and he was pretty oblivious. But especially for guys that maybe have never taken a bear, what a way to do it.
Yeah.
I can't think of a better way to hunt bears, because it's exactly like you said. It's super low pressure, because if you blow one out, let's go find another one.
Yeah.
And you're not sitting there being bored. You're walking, you're moving.
Yeah.
Norm and Bob have made sure that I've got my 10,000 steps every single day. And I was like, man, I said this was going to be low key, but my feet are kind of sore. But that's from walking around picking up all the dead birds too. So you factor it all together, and it's like pretty good.
And another bonus that a lot of people don't think about is these bears are grain fed all summer.
Yes.
They taste fantastic.
We
And
kept
I don't
we
care
kept
if you
our
like
meat.
I don't care if you like bear meat or not. A bear that's been eating grain all summer, he's gonna be pretty good.
Yeah. Brandon and I, it was kind of a no-brainer because we thought, do I want to keep this? Because in Wyoming we don't have to keep the meat, and in a lot of and it's kind of 50-50 in the lower 48 where you don't have to keep it. And I don't think you'd have to keep it here.
We don't
do you?
have to keep it, no, not
Right.
legally.
And on a spring bear, that makes perfect sense. Eating a spring bear is not always the greatest idea. Your face says it all.
Well, depending on what he's been eating, right?
Sure.
He's been chewing on stinky beavers for all spring, and you're shooting him towards the end of the season. No, he's not going to be very good.
Right.
But if you shoot a early season bear, well, he's been marinating in his den all summer, all winter.
Yuck.
He's going to be pretty tender.
He hasn't moved around for like 6 months. Tender. That's one way of looking at it, I guess. But yeah, you're right. These bears, they're eating berries. Your guys' berry crop's just finishing up.
Yeah.
You know, there's still rose hips. There's still that bear last night. Watching him come up the riverbank, he was just nipping those rose hips.
Yeah, he was stripping the branches.
Just stripping
Yeah.
rose hips. And bunch berries. There's bunch berries everywhere on the forest floor. But they've eaten raspberries, whatever kind of berries. What else?
Saskatoons.
Saskatoons.
So what are those like? I heard Bob say that the other night, and he was trying to explain it to me.
It's like a blueberry, but they're a little more tart,
Okay.
and they're like a high bush. They grow on like a 6 to 8, 10 foot tall trees,
Got it.
and they're a little bit smaller than a blueberry, but they're amazing, and they make really really good pies and jams. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a good berry.
Interesting. So you got those bears eating that, and then the grain gets ripe. They're in oats, and they really like the oats. Do they
Yeah.
get in anything else like barley?
Oh,
or-
wheat and barley.
They do a little bit.
Yeah. Once the oats come off, then if there's nothing else, they'll feed on wheat and barley.
Okay.
And
What about-
And peas
a
every
little
now and
bit,
then.
yeah.
Peas? Yeah, that would make
And
sense.
a good grass every now and then. If there's not much else around, they'll eat alfalfa or grass, or whatever. But that oats is like crack cocaine for them.
Right.
But those bears the first night, like you could hear them chewing on those peas when we were stalking them.
Yes.
So they're eating pretty much any
Yeah.
cereal
it
grain.
was
Yeah.
pretty quiet, and you were like, "Can you hear him?" And once I turned my good ear to my right ear toward the sound, then I could hear crunch, crunch,
Yeah.
crunch, crunch, and I'm like, "Whoa, Brandon!" And Brandon's even closer. I'm like, "Dude, he's got to have a shot."
Yeah.
He didn't. The bear was feeding away from him. But we saw a bear on the way in here along the highway that was in, well, clover. It looked like he was eating clover.
Yeah.
But that bear that's a bush bear. I mean, he's in the middle. There's no agriculture within 100 kilometers of that bear.
You'll find a lot fatter bears in the agriculture land.
Right.
Yeah.
The fat on my bear was impressive. You know, taking it off, we're like, oh, that's pretty crazy. The fat on Brandon's bear?
Oh, it's insane. I've never seen it like that.
Really?
Like-
So that was substantial.
Yeah.
We had that one, off one hindquarter, that fat had to be 6 inches thick.
At least. Yeah.
There's a picture of it, and it's like Bob's holding it, and it's like he's holding, I don't know, it had to be 10 pounds of fat or more.
These big bears, like if you get a bear that weighs 400 pounds in the springtime, he'll weigh 500 pounds in the fall.
100 pounds
They'll
of
put
fat.
100 pounds of fat on.
It makes sense because you watch them walk, and they literally just like, they just sway.
Yeah.
You know, and they jiggle like a big fat person. You know, they just.
Yeah, I know what that's like every single day.
Me too. So that's what I was saying. I'm kind of relate. Too many Saskatoons.
Yeah.
No, too many Saskatoon pies, more like.
Yeah.
Oh, man. So what we did is we kept our meat. Brandon kept his, I kept mine. Because I like bear. And I'm thinking the same thing that you just described. I'm like, these things have been eating berries. They've been eating grain. You're not going to get a better eating animal. And I'm thinking, yeah, let's do it. And so I kept mine. But we kept all the fat, too. We kept the fat off Brandon's bear.
Yeah.
You guys were the first night with my bear, we were skinning it, and you're like, do you want this fat? And I was kind of like, nah. Then I got talking to my wife, and she goes, You threw it away? I said, well, yeah, I wasn't going to bring a bunch of fat home. She goes, if you get another one, can you bring the fat home? I want to render it.
Yeah. There's a lot of people that use that bear fat.
What do they use it for? Because I'm
making different oils and soaps and I don't know.
So they're using
you
it
can
for
talk to my wife
soap?
about that.
Oh, your wife.
She'd tell you.
That's the next podcast.
I've heard it's good for treating arthritis.
Yeah.
There's tons of people that use it for that.
So
Joint pain
they're
and
using
stuff.
it like a liniment. Then.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That's interesting. 'Cause I think her idea is she wants to bake with it,
Oh yeah.
like lard.
Oh yeah. People bake with it. And it's actually it's pretty decent to deep fry in.
Oh, I would bet.
Yeah.
I'm definitely going to do that. Probably deep fry some goose nuggets or something in it. My kids love goose fingers.
Oh, is that rating?
Love it. I'll literally cut them, or nuggets, either way. But I'll cut them into, whatever, maybe pound them out with a mallet a little bit so they're pretty tender. And then I just roll them in whatever breading I've got and fry them. And I'll do it with the bear. I'll let you know how that works out.
Yeah, let me know.
So what about canola? Because we talked about the geese they don't go in the canola except for crazy speckle bellies.
Yeah.
You ever see bears in the canola?
Not hardly at all. No,
Really?
you'll see the deer. You'll see the deer and the elk when that canola starts greening up, and the pods are getting not ripe, but they're green. You're gonna see mule deer in every single one of those canola fields.
Interesting.
They're loaded. The deer love that stuff.
Really?
And you'll see probably 5 mule deer to every one whitetail. You see
Yeah,
in
I think
those
so
canola
too.
fields.
Yeah.
That's interesting because obviously we've got the Wingmen channel, but I'm the editor for Eastman's Hunting Journals, and so we just had a cover deer from, I think it was Saskatchewan, Audrey Ettinger. I'm pretty sure she was from Saskatchewan. In fact, I know she was. Huge whitetail, or huge mule deer buck, like 240 inches. This thing was insane. And she shot it in a canola field.
Absolutely. When we draw mule deer tags, Norman and I, or all of our buddies, the first thing we're doing, if we're scouting in early August and trying to find a big buck, we're going from canola field to canola field to canola field to canola field, because guaranteed they're going to be in there.
And those deer will walk across an alfalfa field to get to canola.
No kidding.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That's crazy. Yeah.
Because they got cover too, right? Sorry to cut you off.
No,
there, but
no.
They got lots of cover because oftentimes the canola is tall, and if they're laying down in there, I mean, it's going to hide their antlers and everything.
They're completely
They're
hidden.
completely
Yeah.
hidden. And
It's a
so
one-stop shop.
Yeah.
That's wild.
They
That
love
makes perfect sense.
And it's thick that often the coyotes and the wolves, they don't like going in the canola because it's super thick and they can't really get around. They can't see anything in there. So there's hardly any predators in that canola stuff. It's pretty good hunting in this stuff.
Yeah, because they're combining that stuff like crazy right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We came back from bear hunting last night, and once we crossed the river, it was just like combines everywhere.
Lights everywhere.
Lights
Yeah.
everywhere, combine and everything. And then the one poor guy was mowing the ditch. I wasn't sure what he was doing. Like he just felt left out, so he had to get out there and do something.
Too many edibles.
At least he wasn't mowing his shingles.
Yeah.
Oh man! But this has been the modus operandi all week, and I know I talked about that in the previous episode with Kurt and Rod. Dude, we have laughed all week long, like sides hurt, breakfast, telling stupid stories and just laughing. And Bob the other night at dinner I told a story. And he must have got a mental picture because he's a quiet guy, very soft-spoken, to the point where he's in the truck and he's literally talking out, kind of like looking at the other side and he's talking. I can't hear a word he's saying. I can hear, and that's all I can hear. So I'm like, what was that? Oh, then he realizes I can't hear him, so then he speaks up. But he was dying. Just rolling, and you guys were laughing at him because he was laughing.
I was laughing almost as hard at him as laughing at your story. And the story was hilarious, and may or may not repeat that on the podcast. But but I mean, you were painting an HD 4K video picture in that guy's brain.
It was
hilarious.
It was hilarious. And he's not here. Bob's a taxidermist.
Yeah.
By trade. That's what he does. But that guy, and I'm not downplaying your skills.
No.
Because you are very, very good at what you do. You spotted my bear. And it was one of those deals where we were just waiting, watching Brandon, and it was wild because I had a mental image of that exact thing happening.
Walking out of that cut line right onto the field.
I was like, one of these times I'm going to look, and there's going to be a bear walking right down that cut line. And this is what's going to happen. And it's like I manifested it. It's exactly what happened. But we turned, and you were like, oh, there's a bear. And it worked out because Hunter was filming Brandon stalking his bear, and you have your camera, and I saw you immediately go into camera mode.
Yeah.
So it clicked. I'm like, he's going to film this. So then it was kind of a no-brainer. And she comes walking out, and I'm looking at her, and I don't even remember if anybody said, that's a good bear.
Nope.
But I'm looking at it, and I'm like, it's not a tiny one.
That'll do.
That's a pretty nice bear. I'd be happy with that. And it worked out just perfectly. But Bob, so Brandon's bear Brandon stalked in. I'm going to back this up. We're on my bear. We're making the recovery. And it's Bob and Hunter and I, because you and Brandon went back out to check if the bear that he had stalked when I shot mine came back out, because it spooked when I shot it kind of stood up, heard my bow go off, must be. Because we were only 200 yards apart in the same field. And all of a sudden, we're in the woods, and we hear... Bob looks, he goes, I guess we got another bear. Just deadpan, Guess we got another bear. And I'm like, oh my gosh. 2 in one night, sweet. Well, what had happened was Brandon's bear turned a little bit, and we weren't sure about the shot, about the hit. It was kind of dark. We couldn't tell on the camera where exactly the arrow hit. And so we decided, we got on. We had a good blood trail. We're walking in there, and the woods is getting thicker and thicker.
Oh, it was thick
and thicker to the point where, and it's raining, and we're going, oh man. And then we heard like a branch break. And was that bear clacking? Like
I think it was.
Her teeth?
I think it was. It was like that smacking sound they make. Yeah.
That's what it sounded like. And I remember I was the last in line, because I'm like, there's going to be 4 people in front of me if this bear comes.
I'm going to be the last one eating.
I'm going to be the last one eating. So we're good. And by that time, I'm going to be probably back out to the field anyway, hightailing it for the 4-wheeler. But that was definitely, we were done for the night. It's like, all right, this bear needs time. So we backed out. Did not go, because then we skinned my bear that night. It was late. That was a late night.
I think we crawled to bed at 3 in the morning.
3 o'clock in the morning. And Curtis was like, are you guys going goose hunt with us in the morning? I'm like, what, in an hour and a half? But so we slept in, went back out, got on the bear, combed through that thick stuff.
Yeah, we gridded that whole strip in that field. Nothing.
Couldn't come up with anything, and we're kind of getting worried. Like, this might not work out. And Bob,
the bloodhound,
unbelievable. I nicknamed him Bush Bob because it's unbelievable. His bush skills he's a bushman. I mean, it is unbelievable. He's out standing there in the field, and he's the first one out of the thick stuff because he's like part wolf, I think, and he just slips through that stuff like it's nothing. Walk out, he's like, "You find anything in there?" I'm like, "No, not really." And we got talking, and he's like, "Well, I think I saw a bear in this oat field. I just saw like its head pop up." We're like, "Oh, okay." We all get out, and he didn't really say anything.
No, he didn't.
He's just kind of like listening to everybody talk, and he goes, "Well, I saw a bear right over here," like as an afterthought. I'm like, well, maybe that's pertinent information. He's like, but I think in his mind he was thinking, there's no way that bear's going to go out in those oats exposed.
No.
Yeah.
To die.
Especially wounded like that.
Yeah. Why wouldn't it stay in that super thick cover?
And that's where I thought we'd find him, in that super thick stuff.
Nose to nose.
Yeah. Yeah.
But anyway, it got really interesting from there because we walked over to see it, and there was the blood trail going into the oats. And so Brandon knocked an arrow, got over there, and then we could see the bear. And she was pretty hurt.
Yeah.
She was pretty hurt, but she needed a coup de grace. And so Brandon delivered that, and of course, you know, it got a little Western, but not too Western. I think I messaged
the
you.
exciting Western.
Yeah, the good Western. The kind that you're like, whew, that was exciting, but nobody got hurt.
Yeah.
It was quite the experience. And the whole thing was, it's like, dude, we're going to get up in the morning and go hunt. We're going to hunt geese again. All of that, and then go shoot geese. Like, all in a day's work. And you guys do that all September.
It's a good time. It's a great time.
I don't know, it's incredible. And it's one of those things that I think I told you, I probably have 7 of these sold already to different people that I know, because I'm like, you have to do this.
Good, we'll be busy next year.
Yes, you have to come do this. But so we're back on bears. We got on some bears last night. And there were elk out there.
Yeah, elk bugling on the field.
That was super cool.
5 or 6 bears?
Yeah, something like that, and one big one.
Yeah.
And I think we're going to probably head out here shortly and go see if we can find that bear again, maybe, or go to a different field.
We'll see.
Okay.
See what we come up with.
Well, it's one of those things that this isn't just a one-trick pony, though. This isn't all you guys do.
No.
So what all do you offer through the rest of your outfitting business?
Well, we wrap this up here, obviously tomorrow. I guess you guys take off, and that finishes off our bear waterfowl hunts for this year. And then on Tuesday, my first moose hunters show up. And Wednesday, my first moose hunters show up. And on Thursday, we start off with moose hunting, and we run that till the 9th or 10th of October. Run about 15 guys through, so not a huge number of moose hunters, but enough to keep us busy for a while. A few different camps. And then actually October is probably one of our biggest breaks of the year. We get a good solid 3 weeks off before we start wolf hunting.
Okay.
So we start wolf hunting in November, and I'll run these then we do a couple whitetail hunts in November as well, and then we wolf hunt around here locally over bait in November, December, and in January, February we do a couple sport shows. We'll go down to Utah this year, do the Hunt Expo. We'll do Safari Club International this year, and then in March. We're still wolf hunting in February too, I guess, between shows. And then in March, for the whole month of March, we're chasing Arctic wolves in the Northwest Territories, which is an absolute riot.
How does that work? Because there can't be any roads.
There's an ice road that goes up between north of Yellowknife, and it goes all the way up to a couple of diamond mines up there. It's called the Tibet to Contoito Ice Road, and it's shocks you guys are all in miles, but if you go right to the end, it's 500 kilometers.
That's a long ways.
It's a long ways. Yeah, it takes you about 14 hours to drive to the north end of it.
Yeah, because I imagine you got to go pretty slow.
You got to go pretty slow. Yeah, but there's a whole bunch of trucks on that road hauling fuel and supplies to these mines. But the caribou migration comes down, and they spend their winters down around the northern portion of that ice road. Mm-hmm. Well, there's anywhere where there's going to be caribou, there's going to be wolves, because these wolves, they follow these caribou herds around year round. And we just babysit those caribou until we find wolves. And last year in March, we killed 19 wolves with 12 hunters in 3 weeks. Yeah.
That's insane.
That's the best we've ever done. We had a good time.
And a lot of those guys tagged out on day 3.
Yeah.
Day 2, day 3 kind of thing.
How many wolves can they shoot?
Two wolves per.
So yeah. two tags. Okay. Yeah.
It's a pretty cool experience. It's one of the only places you can legally chase a wolf on a snowmobile.
If you intend to kill it.
It's not just something you go do. Like, I'm bored. Let's go find a wolf and chase it with a snowmobile.
I ain't kidding. In the Wildlife Act, it says you're only allowed to chase a wolf on a snow machine if you intend to kill it. Well, we got pretty good intentions.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we wrap that up, And then this year I'm going to be running another wolf camp in Nunavut territory. So it's just past the end of the ice road. We're going to snowmobile another like 35 miles. And I've got an old caribou camp that I lost my caribou tag, so I'm going to convert it into a wolf hunting camp. And we can shoot wolverines in Nunavut territory. And I'm the first outfitter that can legally bait predators in Nunavut territory, which is cool.
I was going to say.
Because Nunavut does not have any regulations on daylight hours, because at certain points of the year, Nunavut territory is dark.
Completely dark
for months on end, right?
Right.
So we can shoot 24 hours. Over bait, using thermals, night vision, spotlights, chasing with snowmobiles. It's pretty neat experience.
What is that like?
And then
I'll let you finish. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
So we can put these baits out and check them in the morning. I mean, if you don't want to stay up all night and shoot them with a thermal, you can go check for some tracks, get on a set of tracks and follow them. I don't know, it takes 10, 20, 30, 40 miles till you catch up to them and shoot them. It's not for everybody, but it is an absolute riot.
Gosh, that sounds like the next level. That's like next level fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can be riding in the truck for 3-4 days, and you're like, well, this is no fun. Sitting in the truck, just driving around, and then spot a pack of wolves, and it gets western real quick.
Oh, she gets plenty western.
Bailing out.
Yep.
We've wrecked a few snowmobiles, burned a couple down.
Yep.
Have a good life insurance policy.
So I was going to say, yeah, exactly. And the whole time your wife and kids are sitting back here, haven't heard from you in a month.
Yeah.
Is Daddy still alive, Mommy? I have no idea. He's hunting wolves in Nunavut.
It's a good time.
So when you burn a snowmobile down...
Well, actually, Norman burns snowmobiles.
So tell me about this story,
Got a bad
Norm.
track record.
I was going to buy Norman a little, holster for Christmas with a little fire extinguisher in there.
Yeah.
Because it kept burning everything to the ground.
Yep.
So we were chasing these wolves. It was on, what was it, Dave? Okay, we hunted wolves for a day, and then we had a nasty storm come through.
Right, we had to go back to town.
So we drove all the way down, back to town, spent a couple days in town. Storm blew through, and we had 2 days of hunting left before the next hunters rolled in. And this is the last week of hunting that we did pre-COVID. And after that, the whole world went to pot.
Oh, yeah, it was insane.
It was. So we were up there having a ball when the whole COVID thing dropped. But anyway, we whip out there for the last 2 days, and sure enough, we find these caribou, and we're babysitting them, glassing around, looking for wolves, and we find 3 of them, and Daniel Welker tagged 2 of them on that hunt, and so the next morning, then the guy who's hunting with Todd, we're looking for 2 wolves for him. We spot these 2 wolves, and it was pretty rocky where we were in, and usually we got to wait for these wolves to get onto an open area where there's it's on a lake that's all frozen, so we're not busting rocks and stuff, right?
Yeah.
But we were kind of short some time, and maybe taking a few risks.
Maybe.
And we spot these wolves, and there's rocks everywhere, and we're thinking, boy, this is gonna be tough. And we start going, and I told Norm, okay, you just, because it was Norman's first. I think
yeah, it was my first year up there
on those Arctic wolf hunts.
So yeah, before we spotted these wolves, made a game plan, and just before we took off, he looked back and said, "Stay on my heels." Like, okay.
Just drive where I drive.
Yep. And I sure did.
So we bust after this wolf. We get the first one done, and we get him killed. And we cut this other set of tracks, and we're following it, and then we spot it like a mile and a half away, going over the ridge. And so we juice it, and we're going way too fast for the conditions, because I know where he's going, it gets worse. There's more rocks, and if we don't catch him in time, he's going to get in those rocks, and he's gone.
Right.
So we're flying across the snow, and I see this rock at the last second. I'm thinking, oh, and that's too late. It's like, boom. We hit that rock. The guy's airborne behind me. Oh. And poof, he lands back on the snowmobile. I'm thinking, oh, sweet, I got him. And it's like, so I keep going, and in my mind I'm thinking, boy, I hope Norman doesn't follow me. But Norman's right in my tracks. Well, I dusted all the snow off of this rock. This rock is fully
Yeah, so Kyler had a
exposed.
cushion when he hit it, and I hit solid rock. Doing,
Oh.
what, 50 mile an hour?
probably.
Did you go over the front end?
Nope. But I almost lost my passenger.
Oh,
It took a while. We hit that rock when we were airborne, I don't know how far. And it took a couple seconds and just a thump behind me, and he hit the seat.
Yeah.
What did they think of that?
We get this wolf, and Todd, he's riding with me. Well, he'd put his goggles down because it's like 38 below.
Oh,
And
yeah.
it was cold that day, and his goggles had fogged up instantly. So he's doing this whole ride blind, can't see a thing.
Oh
so
my
he's just hanging on,
gosh.
doesn't know what to expect. He's got a rifle in his sling, and it's bouncing around, hit him in the chin, and he's just hanging on for dear life. He pulls it off, shoots that wolf, and we walk up to it, and he's just vibrating. He's like, oh, this is awesome. But this is
It's about all I can handle, he said.
almost too much adventure for me. But now he says it's the best hunt he's ever done in his life.
Yeah, exactly.
And the whole time I'm riding behind Kyler, and I see Kyler's passenger. He's turning left, and this guy's leaning right, just back and forth. I'm like,
just jerking him
and
all
then-
over the place.
yeah. And then he said, "Well, my goggles fogged up right away." Like, oh, you're doing this whole thing blind.
So back to the snowmobile burning thing.
Oh, yes.
So we pull up beside this wolf, and we're hooting all around, high-fiving. And Norman's still standing on the snowmobile. And I look over at Norman, and there's flames almost up to his chin. And he's standing on the snowmobile with a great big old grin on his face. I said, Norman, your snowmobile's on fire. And he looks at me, what? He's got the...
I've got like 5 hoods on and goggles over top, and couldn't hear a thing.
Yeah.
I said, Norman, your snowmobile's on fire. What?
And I tore my hood off, and that's when I looked down and said, "Whoa!"
It's all in flames. And so somehow when he impacted the rock, I mean, we looked at it after. I mean, everything the whole bulkhead was bent in, and the
Oh, man.
It was destroyed.
it was
Like,
it
it was-
tore off. Like it would have been a write-off. So I hope the insurance company's not listening. It burned, and I had fire insurance, so I got fire insurance. But it was the snowmobile was done.
Right.
It still ran.
We did try to extinguish the fire, but there's.
No.
I think the whole bulkhead and everything filled up with gas. I think I must have
Oh.
busted a gas line or something,
Right.
and there's no chance of saving that
No.
thing.
So now you're on foot.
Well, we had one snowmobile,
Yeah.
2 dead wolves, and 4 guys. And we're a long ways from the truck. So we just did a few loads. We skinned a couple wolves. I think we skinned them right there.
Yeah, you took one of the guys back to the truck, and I started skinning, and then the last trip I think we had 3 guys on that sled,
Yeah.
2 wolves or something.
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
So this isn't just like, because the guys that are listening to this have probably very few of them have a frame of reference. You know what I mean? Because this is the bear hunts that we do, that we just got done doing, would be big adventure for a lot of folks. A lot of folks. And so what you just described, people are like, oh my gosh. And it's just like, you want to go wolf hunting? Let's go. Get in the truck.
It's an absolute riot, that one. Probably the most expensive wolf hunt you can buy in North America.
Right,
But
I bet.
It costs
Well,
a lot.
there's a lot of overhead.
Yeah, but it's a fun one. So we do that, and then as soon as we finish that, we got some muskox hunts that start, and we run those till like mid-April. And then we have a little bit of time, about a week. Then we start baiting for black bears down here.
Oh, so you have spring muskox hunts.
Yeah, spring muskox hunts.
I didn't even know that was a thing.
Oh, yeah. That's a neat hunt in itself. But before, I guess we start the black bear baiting here towards the end of April. And then we do some grizzly hunts out of Bathurst Inlet, Nunavut territory.
Okay.
Like May 5th to the 15th, kind of. And then, so we're kind of starting those grizzly hunts. So we start our black bear hunts up here. And then run the black bear hunts usually till June 15th. And then we have, a month of time we can enjoy our summer.
Yeah, about a month.
And then we go back up north for fall muskox. Then we do the whole thing over again.
Just over and over and over and over again. That's so cool. I want to talk about muskox in a second, but I want to go back to the wolves. and this is a waterfowl podcast, and we're way out in the big game field, but that's okay because this stuff's beyond the pale, and it's just awesome. The wolf thing. Why are you hunting the wolves? Why are you getting after them like this? Because some folks are gonna hear this and be like, "You're chasing wolves on a snowmobile, and then you're shooting them?"
Yeah, it's a very touchy subject, and there's a lot of what's the word? There's a lot of people that think a wolf is a spirit animal and all this stuff.
Right.
There's a lot of controversy surrounding wolf hunting, but it started here in Alberta actually. For me, when I bought this property in 2011, we had a whole bunch of deer here, and I thought I'm going to have an absolute deer haven.
Right.
And I kept monitoring the deer in the area. Well, in the winter of 2012, 2013, it was a bad winter. We had 15 feet of snowfall that year, cumulative. I mean, once it all packs down, there's not that much snow.
Right.
But there was a lot of snow, and I found 46 wolf-killed deer within a mile of my property, and it pretty much wiped out the entire deer population in the area. And I got mad at them, and I thought, this can't go on, or we're going to lose.
You won't have any deer.
We won't have any deer left.
Yeah.
And nobody. See, it used to be there was a lot of trappers in the area because fur was worth something, and so they keep the wolf population in check. But now there's no trappers anymore. There's nobody that hunts wolves, so the population was blown way out of proportion. And I got mad at them and started trapping, started snaring, and started hunting them. And I took a lot of wolf hunters down here, and we've killed. See, our county put a bounty on the wolves the following year, and in a 6-year time period, we killed 500 wolves in our county.
Wow.
Just in our county. And between me and my trapping partner, we killed 38% of them, which was pretty cool.
Yeah.
But it's really started to make a difference. And so we kept trapping them harder and harder and harder, and especially around this area, around my house. And now I don't want to kill all the wolves.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
You want to have a proper balance, predator-prey balance. And so now there's hardly any wolves around my property, and the deer numbers are coming back, and the moose numbers are coming back, and it's amazing the difference that it makes. So to translate that into the Arctic wolf hunts, caribou numbers in the Arctic have been declining for a long time.
Sure.
And so they're blaming predation mostly and a couple of other things, and they really don't know why the caribou populations are declining, and that's another podcast in itself about caribou. But
I think you need to get on. You guys both should do like a Zoom call with Brian Barney in the Elevated podcast, and you can jump into that because that's the dedicated big game audience, and they're going to really eat that up. But keep going.
So we like to do our part and just help the caribou population out. The government of Nunavut has been doing a wolf program for years, trying to encourage wolf hunters and wolf trapping and stuff. And actually, our company, Adventure Northwest, that's the name of our Arctic company, takes a large percentage of the wolves out of that area of the Northwest Territories every year. So.
And people are taking them, and they're obviously trophies. They're having them tanned,
Yeah.
or they're mounting them, or whatever.
Yeah, they're not just going to waste.
Yeah, exactly. But it's a management tool. In effect, it is 100% a management tool. We are doing a lot of that in Wyoming, Montana, and Idaho. The Great Lakes states are hurting because they don't do quite as much, and they're seeing exactly what you described. We had an elk herd in southern Montana on the northern border of Yellowstone National Park that before wolf reintroduction was 20,000 plus animals. Now it's hovers around 2,000.
Yeah.
And
And you're going to see that in Colorado. I mean, Colorado right now is the epicenter of elk. I mean, you got a bazillion elk in Colorado.
Right.
They're reintroducing the wolves. It's going to
They opened a can of worms 10 years down the road, they'll wish they'd never done it.
And these are, and that's from guys that have grown up with wolves. You've been around wolves your whole life. They're nothing new. You are the experts at this. You know how to manage wolves. Yeah, I agree. I agree. But like I said, that is something you guys got to dive into that deep with maybe Jeff Nimnick on Eastman's Predator Pros. That would be an amazing conversation.
Sure.
On the Predator Hunting Podcast. But waterfowl. All of this stuff is fascinating to me. And when Ike asked me about this hunt, if this was something that I wanted to do for Wingmen, I mean, Peace River's been on my bucket list for geese since I was a kid. And I'm older than both of you. How long has the goose hunting here been a thing?
Forever. Since farmland was created in this area.
Really?
Yeah. When this area started opening up for farmland, there was a few birds or a few geese and ducks that stopped in through here. But as more farmland got opened up, I think the flyways somewhat changed. Those geese learned to stop by Crete, Alberta, because it was the first stop, and there was a good supply of farmland and some potholes with some water and the Peace River running through it. Mm-hmm. So they had everything they needed. They had water, they had food, and not a whole lot of hunting pressure back then. And you know, the hunting pressure still isn't very high. There's not very many waterfowlers. I mean, there's a bunch of locals here and there, but they don't get hammered.
We haven't seen hardly anybody out and
No.
about. If this was, I think even south of Edmonton,
Oh yeah.
there'd be dudes everywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm monitoring social media as I'm up here, and there's guys posting all kinds of pictures of shooting geese and ducks, and that's where they are.
Yeah.
We drove through there, and it was just not a ton of geese, but just polluted with ducks. I mean, that's a duck factory.
Yeah, it is.
And so it's interesting to me because I asked you, and I asked the boys, I asked Kurt and Rod
Curtain rod.
about, are we going to shoot any ducks? And they're like, oh yeah, probably some.
Yeah.
But this is mostly a goose destination.
Yeah. We'll get a big influx of ducks a little later on. Once October hits and things start cooling down, it seems like more ducks kick around
Sure.
for a while. But it is definitely more of a goose destination than ducks. And most of the hunting that we do is over fields, right?
Right.
And a lot of the good potholes that we used to hunt years ago, or for me growing up, that I remember going to shoot ducks on, they've all dried up or been drained for farmland, and a lot of that's agriculture land now.
Right.
Which is pretty disappointing for us. So a lot of those holes that held all those ducks aren't there anymore.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think that contributed to the decline in the duck hunting in the area. But the goose hunting is unreal.
It is. It's incredible. You came out with us this morning.
Yeah.
Harassed the geese with us.
Yep. And for me, like I didn't grow up waterfowl hunting.
Okay.
It was big game. That's all I hunted. So yeah, I didn't start waterfowl hunting until I joined Wingmaster pretty much when I started working for him.
Really?
Yeah.
And I grew up shooting birds. That's what I started doing. My family didn't bird hunt, didn't big game hunt at all. My grandpa didn't hunt. My dad, we shot birds. And growing up, and we'd go out and shoot 2 or 3 geese in the morning. Oh, I was elated. It was awesome.
Right.
And I loved it. And for me still, if there was one thing I could still shoot for the rest of my life, it'd be ducks over water.
We just answered that question.
So I still love it. And but Kurt and Rod, they've got the fire burning.
How
Pretty
in
hot.
the world did you find those two clowns? Because
See,
I'm teasing them because I told you earlier, I told you this morning actually when we were finishing up, because you guys both came out and hunted with us this morning, and I was like, Kyler, I've been around a lot of different guides, and those two they're gems. They know what they're doing, they're good at it, and most importantly, they're passionate about it.
Yeah.
And that passion and enthusiasm rubs off on their clients.
It absolutely does. If you're out there having a good time and positive attitude, it goes a long ways. So I grew up with their older brother, Ken.
Okay.
And so Ken and I have had a lot of good times in a duck blind.
I can only imagine.
And we warmed a lot of barrels, maybe shot out a few. We didn't hit very much growing up, but we put a lot of rounds skyward.
That's awesome.
So and then I think through that, I got to know Curtis and Rod, and they asked one year, "Hey, you need a goose guide?" I said, "Yeah, actually I do," because the waterfowling for me had kind of fallen to the wayside as I expanded into the Northwest Territories and Nunavut Territory, into the caribou and muskox and the big game, and I didn't have time.
Right.
I was always up north. I can't do it all by myself. So these guys came along and said, "Hey, do you need somebody to guide your waterfowl stuff?" I said, "Absolutely." And then, they just do an awesome job. I don't need to babysit anything. I don't need to tell them what to do. They just do it, and they're awesome.
It's like I said, it's been first class. I mean, we're always on birds, and you can't control what the birds are going to do day to day. You can just make sure that you're where they want to be, and those guys have killed it. Every single day, we've hunted a different spot. This morning we hunted the same field that we hunted the very first day we got here, because it was loaded last night. When we went out bear hunting, it was just black with geese. But yesterday morning and Wednesday morning, to look at the skyline, the horizon, with that sunrise, and it's just skeins of waterfowl trading across the skyline.
It's pretty cool.
You can't go everywhere and see that. And we live in an era right now where waterfowl is doing extremely well. Across the continent, there's pockets that are of concern. The Atlantic flyway is in trouble with their mallards. But overall, especially in the central flyway, goose numbers and duck numbers are way up. And, Ducks Unlimited the waterfowl surveys just came out earlier this year, and they hadn't done one in 2 years because of COVID.
Is that right?
Yes. So they got one from this spring, and they were like, looks good. Looks like another good fall. And from what I've seen, just on this drive up here, when I drove the whole northern end of the flyway, there's birds everywhere.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So if you guys are listening to this and you're in, Kansas or Oklahoma, you're further down in the central flyway, you're going to be in for a great fall if you get the weather that you need to push birds that far down, because there's lots of birds.
There's lots of birds. And I saw that even on our muskox hunts, because we're up there where the birds are spending their summers, right?
Right.
And like the week before we're recording this podcast here right now, we're coming back from these muskox hunts, and there's thousands of birds all night just flying overhead, heading south. And so there's still a lot of birds that are coming.
We watched the numbers this week. We watched when we got here, and it's like we're driving around. The first morning, we were in and out of that field so fast. It was like, wow, that was pretty cool. Like shooting light was 6:22 the first morning, and we were done. Last goose in the dirt. 4-man limit. Yeah, 4-man limit that day by 7:30.
That's pretty good.
Just over an hour. It's like, I can't think of many times that I've limited out that many birds that quickly.
Yeah.
It was pretty epic. But by Wednesday, there's twice as many birds in the area.
Yeah.
So you're right here. You're right below where they nested. And I'm sure you produced birds here as well. And then it's just the numbers have just grown and grown and grown all week. You guys have anybody coming in? Yeah, you have somebody coming in next on Sunday or Monday?
Not bird hunters. I've got a little bit of a break, and then I've got some from New Zealand that want to go shoot some bears and birds before they fly into moose camp.
Okay.
But that'll be
Because next
But
week.
we've got resident people that hunt all of September. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like local people.
Right, that makes sense.
Yeah, Rod and Curtis are going to be busy right till the end of September.
Yep.
Shooting
Yep.
birds.
They said they were booked all through, but I didn't know if that was
But as
this
for
hunt.
non-residents, they're just those next week. But yeah, there's it's amazing how that resident hunts has taken off. There's a lot of people that used to hunt when they were kids or whatever. Their grandpa used to do some waterfowl hunting, but now they just don't have the time. Well, it's 1-800-ROD and Kurt.
1-800 Kurt and Rod.
Yeah.
No, that's interesting because that's something that I've seen as well in my own life, where I don't have the time to scout like I did when I was younger. I'm busy, I have a family, and I remember when we were driving to Oklahoma last year, going down the Front Range around Denver in eastern Colorado, and there are, tens of thousands everywhere you look. There's geese, and I remember thinking to myself, man, if I lived here, I don't think I'd own a rig. I don't think I'd own decoys. I don't think I'd own a trailer. I'd take that money that I was going to spend on that and all the fuel money all the gas money I would spend looking for a scout, and I'd go with an outfitter every weekend.
Absolutely. The scouting's been done, all the hard work, the legwork's all been done.
Yeah.
Show up,
jump in a blind and shoot.
shoot birds, and go home.
Right. And your level of involvement is as much or as little as you want it to be.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We jumped in with these guys and we're helping out, and we're doing stuff because that's what we do. I don't want to be. I want to be involved. I want to call. I want to help. I want to be part of that. And that doesn't mean you can't do that. I don't know a single outfit out there that wouldn't encourage you to help out. They obviously like to help, and it helps make the experience better for you. It's really interesting because we're literally in a day and age where stuff's expensive, and decoys and a trailer and blinds and all these things add up, and you're looking at that total cost and going, man, I can go on quite a few outfitted hunts for that.
Yeah. You're looking at your bills, man. I just spent $7,000 in fuel and decoys.
Yeah.
Man, I can spend a lot of mornings hunting with an outfitter for.
Because most guys what do you guys charge for day trips?
$1,000 for the group, per morning.
And what's that? How big a group?
You got 6 guys. It's cheap, really. You got 6 guys. We supply the shells. You jump in the blind.
You supply the shells? Yeah. Holy smokes! Yeah, that is cheap.
Yeah,
that is cheap. So, and I don't know. I'm thinking, like Noah Miller with Western Waterfowlers doing where we are. That's his thing, and he's building a lodge, and he'll have clients for multiple, like a week stay or several days. But he also does day hunting, the same thing that you guys do. And I think he's like I think he's probably pretty close to that same number. And it's like, okay, it's $1,000, but you split that 6 ways.
It's cheap.
It's not very expensive. You can just show up and shoot. It's not that expensive.
Right, and he does the same thing. He provides ammunition, the whole ball of wax. Yeah, I think he was asking me last year because he was having. He loves for his clients. He's always looking for the blue box stuff.
Oh yeah.
I think it's Federal Speed Shock. It's affordable, and it smokes the snot out of birds. And so he's always like, and he was asking me, he's like, you want to get any of that stuff? And it just so happened that the one of the local stores, I'd just seen a case of it, and I was like, you better run down there and grab it. So he did. But that's one of the things, the guys show up, here's a box of shells, here's a box of shells. Oh, you need more?
Yeah.
Like yesterday morning, box after box. I haven't shot like that since I was 12. Just like a child, man. Just pulling the trigger and probably laughing maniacally the whole time I was doing it.
Well, you ended up with the blue thumb from loading shells, didn't you?
I bent my. That was like that. I shut that in my pickup door.
Okay, I thought you did that in your shotgun. I was like, whoa.
No, I bent the thumbnail completely back.
Yeah.
Shoving shells in the loading port. Brink. That old Savage Renegade operates super smooth, but I got a little excited and jammed her in there a little too hard. But no, it was super cool. So if folks want to do this, how do they do it? How do they go about that?
Pretty active on social media, at Knelsen on Instagram or Facebook, Wingmaster Outfitting, Adventure Northwest on Facebook, or or go to our webpage. The new website is just launched. It's not done yet, but it's.
You were working on that one.
Norman
Yeah.
was working on it here the other day, so it by the time this podcast drops, it should be in pretty good shape. So that's www.wingmasteroutfitting.com, or call me 780-247-0247.
Okay, and because it's a podcast, you can play that back multiple times to get the number.
Hit the rewind button.
Hit the rewind
Which
button.
all that info is on the website too.
Right.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, right. Well, this is a first class operation, guys, and I don't whether you're looking for waterfowl. I think if you're gonna come up, if you're in the States and you're gonna come up here and do this, do the bear waterfowl combo. I've never, like I said, before we heard about it, I never heard of anything like it. And then the more I thought about it, I went, that makes perfect sense. Why wouldn't you do that? And as the summer rolled on and anticipation grew, and I'm out at Brandon's house, we're shooting bows, and he's like, is it starting to like sink in what we're gonna go do? I was like, I've been wanting to do this since I was a little boy.
Yeah.
And now we're gonna go home tomorrow, and I don't want to go home. I miss my
happens
family,
fast.
but
It happens
this
fast.
week's been a blur. And it's funny because it's gone really fast, but it feels like I've been here for a month at the same time. It's just been awesome. And this cabin, first class. Both your wives cook and feed us. And like I said, I think I've gained weight on this trip. Thank you. It's really what I needed. But that's a testament to the food. It's top notch. And you actually have a warning on your website.
I do.
It says if you're on a diet, leave it at home. And it's a pretty good warning.
Yeah, those cinnamon
pretty
rolls.
accurate.
Those cinnamon rolls that your wife made the other day, Norman.
Oh man.
Oh,
I think
man.
there's
They're
3
good.
of them left in there. What do you say we knock this off and go get a cinnamon roll?
I think so.
Sounds
I need
like
some
a good
energy
idea.
for the bear hunt.
Let's do it.
All right, let's do it. Thank you guys for being on the podcast. I appreciate it.
Thanks for
Thank
having
you
us.
for having us
Absolutely, anytime.
up here.
It's been a pleasure.
And I look forward to coming back. Like I said, I can't promise you when, but I can tell you that it's probably going to happen. So,
Sounds
awesome.
good.
Let's go get a bear.
All right.